What's going on, moviegoers? So if you're new to the channel, my name is Christian. Welcome to Zero Productions. The reign of the MCU, you guys. I am currently reading this. I am almost done, as you can see. And boy, oh boy, this book is absolutely fantastic. If you like a tell-all story and how, Marvel Studios and Disney, really established this massive, studio, I highly suggest you guys check it out. It is phenomenal. But one thing I wanted to talk about, because I found so much information in this book fascinating. And fascinating to the reason of why Marvel Studios is struggling today with Phase 4 and Phase 5. And Kevin Feige honestly feels like he is alone. He's alone. Because you really think about the earlier phases, or the Infinity Saga, right? Were the most successful runs at any studio. Billions upon billions of dollars, you guys. They had a creative committee, a creative team, where they were all leading towards one cohesive story. Whereas the Multiverse Saga is kind of all over the place. Phases 4 and 5 have just been introducing a bunch of characters that don't really lead into the bigger picture of the Multiverse Saga, other than a couple of projects like No Way Home or Loki or Multiverse of Madness, right? So there's been a very unclear vision of what they are trying to establish in these two phases, right? Kang is supposed to be the next big bad. The Multiverse Saga is going to wrap up the legacy characters, and we're going to be moving on with a possible reboot of the MCU. But I was just like, who does Kevin Feige have on his side right now other than Nate Noor and Louis D'Esposito? You look at the Infinity Saga, Joss Whedon, James Gunn, the Russo brothers, Jon Favreau, the writers of Captain America Winter Soldier, Captain America Civil War, Avengers Infinity War, Avengers Endgame, Christopher McFeely and Steven, God, I forgot I totally drawn a blank on the writers, right? But there was like a committee of these creative gurus, right? And they all kind of worked in the same sandbox together. James Gunn rewrote scenes for his Guardians in Infinity War and Endgame. Joss Whedon was one of the main reasons why James Gunn was hired for the first Guardians movie. He even gave him ideas for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1. Joss Whedon directed Avengers and Age of Ultron. And he kind of went over a bunch of scripts for Marvel Studios in the earlier two phases. Now, granted, the first two phases didn't really make that much money, right? Especially like phase 1 when you had like the introduction to these core characters. But I still think it was a success. It was. I think phases 1, 2, and 3 were a massive, huge success. And they had this committee. I feel like they were all together. James Gunn was kind of dealing and introducing the cosmic world, right? The Russo brothers were directing Winter Soldier. Then they moved on to direct, Civil War, Infinity War, and Endgame. They worked with the same writers on all of those projects. Now it's like you have a bunch of different directors and a bunch of different writers who are all on these separate islands who are all doing their own thing. That's why it feels so discombobulated. I'm legit trying to think, like, who in Phase 4 and Phase 5 have really collaborated together to tell a more cohesive story to the Multiverse Saga, other than, Loki Season 1, Season 2 of Michael Waldron, Jeff Loveness for, Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, but he was fired. He's no longer writing the Kang Dynasty. Michael Waldron's going to be writing that, and possibly Avengers Secret Wars. I was like, okay, well, Michael Waldron also wrote Multiverse of Madness. Sam Raimi directed Multiverse of Madness, and it's rumored that Sam Raimi is Marvel's top choice to be directing the Kang Dynasty and Avengers Secret Wars, where he would continue on his work with Michael Waldron. So I'm like, okay, there's that kind of, cohesiveness. But I'm like, other than that, man, like, that's it. Daniel Dustin Cretton, he directed Shang-Chi. He's directing the sequel to that. He stepped down from directing Avengers: The Kang Dynasty. He's handling Wonder Man. That's it. John Watts, he handled all the Spider-Man films. It's still unclear if he's going to be returning to be directing, the next installments for Spider-Man 4, 5, and 6. He dropped out of directing Fantastic Four. Matt Shakman, he's TV director for WandaVision. He's going to be now directing the Fantastic Four. I just feel like the creative committee over at Marvel right now, they're not in the same sandbox with each other. They're not. I don't feel like they're communicating with each other. Prime example is Secret Invasion, Nick Fury, and Secret Invasion in the Marvels. A completely different character. All of a sudden, he's cool and like chill and nonchalant, shooting people from a chair. After Secret Invasion happened, where you almost started a big ass war. It's just, it's crazy to see how they've gone from being so structured in the Infinity Saga to legit just being so discombobulated with all of these solo projects that honestly don't mean that much to the Multiverse Saga. And that's why they're scaling back, and that's why Kevin Feige is literally now, I feel like he's going to be more hands-on looking over every single project, like Captain America Brave New World, for instance, that is going to be doing 6 months of reshoots. 6 months. That is an entire fresh start of shooting a film or a project. 6 months. That is crazy to me. Crazy. And apparently those reshoots start in January. But I'm like, my God, like they desperately miss, that small group, that creative committee during the Infinity Saga. James Gunn is officially out. He's done. He had such a great run in the MCU of all 3 Guardians, the holiday special. He did a wonderful job. Wonderful. Executive producer. Like I said, Jon Favreau, James Gunn, they're executive producers on Infinity War and Endgame. Everybody was kind of working together. Now it's just like, you're here, you're there, you're there, you're there, you're there. Hopefully they talk to each other about this certain project because it kind of ties in, but doesn't really. It's mind-boggling to me that Nia DaCosta wouldn't have contacted the people over at, the creative team working on Secret Invasion for Nick Fury's character to be like, okay, how can we translate this kind of new Nick Fury over into the Marvels, where he's kind of more of a hard ass and he's dead ass more serious and not just a chill Nick Fury. It's just, it makes no sense to me. And, reading this book and getting all the delightful insights, it's been so cool. Especially as a Marvel fan, since day one, like, it's amazing. It's amazing. Like, you guys really have to pick up this book. It is so good. It is ridiculously so good. Like I said, I'm almost done, and I haven't been able to put this book down because it is so damn insightful being a fan looking from the outside in. It really is. So it's interesting. And that's why I do feel like Kevin Feige's alone. Because, Jon Favreau's Happy Hogan, but who knows if he's ever going to return in the MCU other than doing the What If series. He doesn't have the Russo brothers anymore. I keep forgetting their names. Forgive me, you guys. Please forgive me. The writers for, the Captain America trilogy and Infinity War and Endgame, he doesn't have those wonderful, fantastic writers anymore. Joss Whedon, we all know what kind of a person he was and, the stuff and behind the scenes stuff he did to actors and actresses on, certain projects like, Justice League. I can understand why Disney and Marvel would want to detach themselves from him, but losing James Gunn was a massive loss. It's crazy to me. The creative committee over there, and that's what I'm going to call them, is because they were like kind of consultants on what's happening within the MCU. It's kind of trippy. Even, I didn't know James Gunn directed certain Stan Lee cameos that weren't his own projects. Like, apparently he directed a Stan Lee cameo for Doctor Strange. I was like, what? I had no idea. Or even Spider-Man Homecoming. He's listed as directing that scene. So I was like, damn, that's crazy. So it's kind of crazy, man. I'm really hoping that Phase 5 can really, stand its ground and reestablish itself and really take itself serious and you know, Marvel scale back on the certain amount of projects that they're doing, and they're more focusing on storytelling now and really polishing these scripts, because at this point, you know, phase 4 and phase 5, it looks like they were just literally just pushing stuff out, like just to get stuff out. And, you know, a lot of that has to do of, you know, with Bob Chicopee. I forgot. I can't pronounce his last name. You know, him being, you know, the CEO of Disney during a certain time, and Bob Iger stepping down or whatever. So that was a big problem for Kevin Feige, you know, and they were trying to push Disney Plus so fast. So they were just overloading content like crazy, you know, and ultimately it hurt the quality of the MCU. Quantity is not good over quality. Quality over quantity at the end of the day is the most important thing. And that's where I think James Gunn's DCU is going to thrive so much, because the projects they announced, yeah, it's fun, exciting, but they don't have release dates. They're finding writers, they're finding directors, they are finding their own creative committee to make sure everything is aligned with what James Gunn has planned. And to have this guy steer your ship is so reassuring, because now James Gunn can literally step back and be like, oh, what's happening to the MCU right now? What are they doing? Okay, let's not do that. Let's not do that. Let's have 2 projects a year. You know, we're not getting anything that's going to be, you know, established as being the first live action DCU film other than Superman Legacy in 2025. That's a whole year of not having any live action DC films within, you know, James Gunn's universe, other than you counting, you know, like the Joker 2, but that's an Elseworld story. So is the Batman. But I can't wait for the DCU, man. It's going to feel so refreshing, and I feel like it will, you know, be on par with the MCU, or it could even, you know, exceed the MCU right now because of the struggles that Marvel Studios is going through. But I really want to know you guys' thoughts and opinions on this, because, you know, like I said, I've been reading this book, and I was just like, man, like the creative committee behind, you know, the first phase was, you know, the first 3 phases were powerhouses. You know, as much as you want to hate Joss Whedon, he set up big things. He did. Ultimately, he, you know, wrote a scene for Thanos at the end of Avengers. If it wasn't for Joss Whedon, who knows? Thanos probably wouldn't have even been the big bad villain in the Infinity Saga. James Gunn literally wrote a bullshit script for the Infinity Stones, and Marvel just went with it, and that shit worked. You know, it's just the creative minds of those talented wonders, man. It's a trip. It's a trip, and I'm hoping that Marvel can find its own. You know, they have Ryan Coogler, you know, obviously with the stuff with Infinity War and Endgame, with being set in Wakanda, the Russo brothers contacted him, and, you know, he gave them insights and stuff like that. So, and, you know, future Wakandan projects, I'm pretty sure it's all going to go through Ryan Coogler, as, you know, should. I don't see anybody else trying to helm or do anything in Wakanda, because Ryan Coogler has his hands, his prints all over that stuff. But it's interesting stuff, you guys. Please post your comments down below. Let me know what you guys think about Marvel's creative committee problem right now. Thoughts and opinions, you guys. Let me know what you guys think. Peace.